Bryce Young is due for a big breakout year this season under head coach Dave Canales. The Panthers reloaded their offense and they brought in the head coach who has a really strong offensive mind to help Young reach this next step of what everyone thought he was going to reach last year after being the number one pick in the NFL draft. Dave Canales' resume speaks for itself. Since 2010, he's been a coach in the NFL. Started off as a wide receiver coach for the Seattle Seahawks, was that for 7 years, then became the quarterback coach for the next two. Then he was promoted to passing game coordinator for those next 2 years, and then eventually found himself on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers last year, being an offensive coordinator for that 1 year, and now being the head coach of the Panthers. But in his long tenure in the NFL, he's helped develop some of the top wide receivers in the NFL and helped quarterbacks reach new heights that everyone honestly thought they were never going to reach. In 2018, he was promoted to quarterback coach of the Seattle Seahawks. And from that point on, he coached players like Russell Wilson, Geno Smith, and Baker Mayfield. And all three of these players became household names because of Canales. To begin with, Russell Wilson obviously had a very good and long career with the Seattle Seahawks, and he was performing well before Canales took over as his head coach. But with Canales there, Wilson reached new heights. Dave Canales was his quarterback coach and passing game coordinator for 4 years, so from 2018 to 2022. In those 4 years, Russell Wilson threw for 4,000 yards twice. He's only done that 2 other times in his career. And in 3 of those 4 years, his passing touchdowns per year ranked amongst the top 5. In 2022, when Canales coached him, he threw for 40 touchdowns. In 2018, 35 touchdowns. 2017 and 2015 were tied for 34 times that were Canales didn't coach him. And then in 2019, Russell Wilson threw for 31. 2 out of the 4 times that Russell Wilson threw for 4,000 yards or more, Canales was his head coach. 3 of his top 5 total touchdowns per year, passing-wise, that Wilson threw for were under Dave Canales. So Canales made this already great quarterback reach new heights. Then the next quarterback he coached was Geno Smith, a quarterback that the Jets were high on, drafting him out of West Virginia in the second round, but things didn't pan out and he ultimately became a journeyman. 2014 was the last year that Geno Smith was a full-time starter in the NFL until joining the Seattle Seahawks. And in that season, he threw for 2,500 yards, 13 touchdowns, and 13 interceptions. But in 2021, after Russell Wilson got injured, they brought in Geno Smith for a 3-game stint. And in those 3 games, Canales helped Smith already succeed. He threw for 700 yards, 5 touchdowns, and 1 interception. And then in 2022, Canales' last year with the Seattle Seahawks, he had a full year with Geno Smith. And Geno Smith looks like a completely different person, throwing for 4,200 yards, 30 touchdowns, and 11 interceptions. And because of all this success, it actually led to Geno Smith signing a 3-year, $75 million contract with $30 million in incentives. So Canales made this career journeyman that didn't have much success into a household name, a starting quarterback in the NFL, who signed a really good contract for the position he was in. So he helped Russell Wilson reach heights he's never had before. He helped Geno Smith reach heights he never had before. And then last but not least, he made another journeyman in Baker Mayfield transform his career. Baker Mayfield bounced around with the Browns, the Panthers, the Rams, and didn't have a lot of success. But in his only year with Canales, he transformed as a quarterback and also signed a big contract this past offseason due to it. He threw for over 4,000 yards. He had 28 touchdowns and 10 interceptions. And Canales transformed each of these quarterbacks. So long story short, those numbers speak for themselves. The performance speaks for themselves. Everyone saw how well Wilson, Geno Smith, and Baker Mayfield did under Dave Canales. And it shows you that having Canales as your head coach, as your offensive coordinator or quarterback coach will transform the quarterback position and allow for all these players to reach new heights they've never reached before, whether you were elite or a journeyman. And an issue that a lot of people are concerned with when it comes to Bryce Young is his height. They're saying, well, he's 5'10". Is he really going to be successful? He might struggle with it. Well, here's the catch. Baker Mayfield and Russell Wilson were in the same position. Wilson is a 5'11" quarterback, while Baker Mayfield's 6'1". So 2 out of his 3 quarterbacks that he coached up to the success were in the same situation as Bryce Young. Shorter quarterbacks, and he allowed them to excel at their respective position. Another interesting thing to note about how Bryce Young is going to succeed and how much better this Panthers offense is going to look is the overhaul they made at the wide receiver position. Last season, the number 1 wide receiver was Adam Thielen, a solid wide receiver, but by no means ready to be a wide receiver 1, especially at the age he was at. So they went out there and they acquired Dionte Johnson at the wide receiver position from the Steelers, and they drafted Xavier Legette. So their wide receiver 1 from last year now becomes a wide receiver 2 or possibly a wide receiver 3. Now, some people might say, well, Xavier Legette's a rookie. Adam Thielen's a little bit older. Dionte Johnson had a few drops. Are these wide receivers going to be an improvement? Yes, but how much better are they going to be? Well, if you learned anything about Dave Canales, you know that he's an offensive wizard. And you also know that wide receivers is one of his biggest strengths. When he entered the league in 2010, he was a wide receiver coach for the Seattle Seahawks for 7 years, coaching players like Golden Tate, Doug Baldwin, Tyler Lockett, Jermaine Kearse. And then as an offensive coordinator and passing game coordinator for the Seattle Seahawks, he coached players like DK Metcalf, Chris Godwin, and Mike Evans. And he helped all these players have tremendous success, having 1,000-yard seasons and helping them, like the quarterbacks, reach new heights. So all in all, these wide receivers are super talented, a big upgrade from last year's team, and with Canales as their head coach, will also take a step up alongside Bryce Young. When it comes to protection, the Panthers did a really nice job at doing an overhaul in the offensive line. I believe Taylor Moton will be really strong at the tackle position. I really like Icky at the offensive guard position. And then they brought in Robert Hunt, who is a tremendous offensive guard to help bolster this offensive line. And by doing this, it will help give Bryce Young some more time. All in all, Canales is going to help Bryce Young reach new heights. And when it comes to Bryce Young as a player, he had jaw-dropping plays after jaw-dropping plays every single year with Alabama. And last year just wasn't a good fit or a good situation after having Frank Reich be fired in the middle of the season and having a very turbulent year with the Panthers. I would not put that all on Bryce Young, especially since he was a rookie. And you tell me the last time you saw a rookie quarterback come to the NFL and have a lot of success. There's anomalies like CJ Stroud, but the majority of the time, they don't succeed their first year, and that is okay. Bryce Young is due for a big breakout year, so buy your stock in him now. Let me know what you guys think about this Bryce Young, Dave Canales duo. Thank you guys for watching, and as always, please subscribe.